All right, welcome to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the bead and pour white lightning
And I
straight
am the
onto your
expert.
brain. Yes,
Yes.
I am not, but I did a better job than the guy who said he was an expert on whiskey, picking my own. Um, so let's start off with what is most topical, which is, of course, is the big game, the
It was
Super
a
Bowl.
good one.
Shut up, NFL. Um, yeah, I was surprised. Um,
Well, my prediction was wrong, but uh, my subsequent sub prediction was if Kansas City came in healthy, they had a really good shot.
mhm.
And I just wasn't confident after the championship game that they were healthy. But I mean, they were firing, man.
It was kind of the opposite of what I was expecting because I was expecting that for the first two or three quarters it would be close and then Philly would pull away because I think they're a more stacked roster. And it was the other way around that uh KC was struggling, went into halftime with a 10-point deficit, and then came out and scored on every or almost every possession they had in the second half.
hmm Well,
Uh,
and one thing the analyst, and this might have been your thought too, had wrong was Kansas City's defense has been very underrated all year because everybody's paying attention to the offense.
mhm.
And realistically, other teams just aren't on the field very much. And we got to see because they were dominated in time of possession this time around. We actually got to see the talent on the defense.
I don't think I underrated the defense as much as I overrated Philly's offense because watching what KC did in the playoffs, watching their defense in the playoffs, they looked good, and if you were a KC fan, you had hope, if not full on confidence, that you had enough of a defense to win the Super Bowl because defense wins championships. But
Well, the only reason I don't particularly like that analysis is 35 points should win you the game.
well, that's true. That's true.
Their offense did exactly what we thought their offense could do. It just sputtered out a
Well,
little bit in the end, and it
that
just couldn't
that
do it every drive.
that is part of Grandpa's rant, and I've been thinking about this for a while. I was going to talk about this several weeks ago when we were talking playoff football. Football was better back in our day, and our day wasn't that long ago. Um, the person to come to my mind when I was thinking about seeing if I could find a highlight reel to demonstrate this was Troy Polamalu. That wasn't that long ago, and he
There was a
would
commercial, and I think it was Serena Williams, but she starts walking down that big tunnel, and it was just shadows. I thought it was Troy Polamalu. I thought we were about to get a shampoo commercial.
because of the hair. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Serena.
Uh, you're not wrong though. Uh, you're about to get me sidetracked on the stupidity of the commercials.
Okay, violence in football, and it wasn't that long
Yeah.
ago.
Yes, it was violent. It is a violent game in the same way that, yes, boxing and kickboxing and MMA are violent sports. Hockey is violent. It is controlled and directed violence, which is useful and necessary for men, for boys to become men. Uh, and it's making the game boring to me that here's what I mean. So specifically, let me give a specific example. All of the quarterback sneaks Philly had last night. There were a lot of people that just looked like they were standing around, like they were waiting for the ref to whistle it dead, or they were afraid to go in there and lay a hit. And this is not again, I've been thinking about this through the playoffs, is unless you just catch uh the defense flat, like they're expecting something else, you should not be making 3 and 4 yards on a quarterback sneak every time you do a quarterback sneak, especially when the line is stacked waiting for it. But you don't have the aggressive hits that you used to have.
It was eighth grade, so you were still in Germany, but we ran a quarterback sneak, and we were playing like Cuero or somebody. So we were getting beat 50 something to nothing at that point usually. And we ran a quarterback sneak, and it surprised the heck out of whatever the defense they were running, because we got like 20 yards on it. But we also ran it on like 3rd and 15. So they, a quarterback sneak would
Yeah.
surprise a team there. But no, I was actually, at least 2 of the 3 they ran, that offensive line was just pushing the sleds, man.
Yeah, but see, I've been seeing that a lot of the of pushing the pile, whether it's the quarterback on a sneak or the end of a run, and the linemen get in there and start pushing. And to me, it's because there's no initial hit. Like there's no initial good quality old fashioned put your shoulder in his gut and bury him in the ground.
Well, considering the Texans played the Chiefs and we couldn't run a quarterback sneak to save our lives against them, I would go ahead and give Philadelphia some credit that they're just better at it than at least the Texans, which is it's a very low bar to set, but it's still a bar, right? So they're I mean they were lauded for their ability to run this play too. What's the other team that was really good at it? But it was because the quarterback's super tall. He kind of just falls forward.
I
I
mean,
can't remember
Allen
off
does that, but
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a tall quarterback, and he just kind of falls on top of the center and gets the first down. But but no, I saw yeah, you don't see those DBs doing the Oklahoma drill anymore to whack the quarterback. But other than that, I thought the defensive line was still trying.
I only saw a couple of hits that I thought, good kid, especially when it comes to open
Oh,
field
that guy that had
tackles.
the penalty on him. It's sad that he ended up having that penalty at the end of the game, because he was laying some wood all game long.
A couple of times, but even with his hits, this is something I've noticed is so Troy
Gardner or
Polamalu,
something. It
yeah,
was, yeah, hyphenated.
Troy Polamalu and guys like him, they would come flying in there at full speed and collide like that guy did last night, but then they would finish it. What I'm noticing a lot lately, and I'm not sure, are kids not being taught how to tackle the same way anymore, or do they come flying in there to collide because they're afraid if you lower the shoulder to wrap up in a traditional tackle, well, if he lowers, then we go head to head and I get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, I think that actually has the most to do with it, because a great form tackle is leading with the face mask, and face mask can easily accidentally be crowned onto the chin if someone's going up for a
Mm.
ball, or it gets
Yeah,
higher than you.
and because even if you're trying to line up the shoulder into his gut, well, you're still what's in front, your head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has to be that you're going to be leading with the helmet because it's in front of you. So all they have to do, and we saw it, when they first started to get real serious about this helmet to helmet contact and start flagging that, and the the cry went up, hold on, wait a minute. He initiated the contact because he lowered his head. And they started to call that more on the runner. If he initiated the contact, they would call the helmet to helmet him. But I haven't seen that in the last couple of years. And instead, what I'm seeing are these collision tackles instead of the classic wrap up tackle.
Well, yeah, you're talking back in the day. It wasn't just the defenders that would do that too. I mean, look at another Pittsburgh Steeler, Heinz Ward. He would go out there and in a lot of these would be illegal nowadays because a lot of them are crackback blocks. But
Yes, Heinz
he
Ward
would,
is why that they call that the way they do now.
yeah. But go back even a little bit further, talking about the runner lowering his head. Wasn't it Earl Campbell that broke that guy's sternum by doing his head
I mean,
right
it
into
it
the
it might have
linebacker's
been.
chest? I
He
think it
was
was
one of
Earl
those.
Campbell. Yeah.
That's why he was such an amazing running back, is because he had the speed and the legs of like a Dorsett, but then he would lower his head and run you over like Jim Brown.
What weren't his thighs something ridiculous, like 33 inches or something?
Oh yeah,
That's like my waist.
or Earl Campbell made the Oilers fun to watch. And then Moon made the Oilers fun to watch, and then they never won anything, and it was sad. Anywho, I digress. the The point is,
Yep, all
it's
because Sean Jones had buffalo wings.
the the game is starting to get boring to me, and I'm wondering how many other people feel that way. And if right now, the NFL is at the height of its power. And I mean, it is clearly the number one sport in the US, and it looks like it can't falter, but they did falter a couple of years ago. Uh and actually lost ratings for the first time ever. Um I'm just wondering if all of these rules are going to backfire.
Well, I don't know. We got too many variables here because a lot of the falter was the go woke, go broke. Uh, they've pulled back on that considerably, and the popularity is coming back up. Although there was quite a few things that you might have noticed, like the U.S. Army with the rainbow in the middle, and
I missed that one. I what caught my attention was the first all-female flyover. Oh, good Lord, who can?
yeah, some people do care because my spouse and her sister they're not woke at all, but they thought it was cool. So it was that kind of thing that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me at all because we actually had a nice little conversation about kindergarten teachers after that because there are less male kindergarten teachers per capita than female pilots. That should be a big freaking red flag to why our young boys aren't probably doing well in school. But the side that's tangent. But see that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. But a basically a pride stripe in the middle. They had all the service people in a big crowd, and it was what was it during America the Beautiful or one of
Was it
these?
was it the color guard? Was it on the
No. This
Army
was they
flag?
were doing video
Hmm.
around the world kind of stuff, different service things around the
Oh,
world while
okay.
the song was going. And there was a big crowd of them, and they were all wearing their fatigues, except the stripe in the middle was where they might have been colored fatigues, but they were colored clothes that made a flag, a rainbow in the middle.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, oh God, these are the people defending your country, my friends.
Well,
That's the stuff that bothers me. The female pilots, that doesn't bother me at all because okay, yay, we got 4 female pilots. We made a small statement, whatever.
there is precedent for this though. uh, in and I don't remember who I heard had a good rant on this. It was either Wilbon or Whitlock. I don't remember which one, making the point that you can make a good case that the NBA is the most underperforming professional league in the United States for the simple fact that, as he put it, my grandma shoots hoops. No one has not at some point in their life played 21 or shot a round of horse. And yet, the NBA, it kind of fights for the MLB for that second spot behind the NFL. So you can make the case that the NBA has underperformed given how many people
Identify with
participate
the
in the
sport.
sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
kind of
I,
kind
I
of kind of like why hockey is just not popular in the South because
you
you
can't
have
play it.
to you actually
Yeah.
have to have money to play hockey because you have to find a special league that has a special place that they're renting out, which in Houston, I don't know if you know, but it costs a lot of money to keep something cold.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so especially a very large area. So you kind of it's kind of a at least upper middle class sport here.
Hmm.
But up north, it's something just people do.
Yeah. Just go outside. It's
Yeah.
go outside and play. Well, out there that can include hockey. Yeah. But for basketball, I don't know how I got on this rabbit trail, but I had watched through the stuff I usually watch on YouTube, and I don't know how it got recommended, but I somehow went down this rabbit trail of watching old Larry Bird videos. I'd forgotten how mean he was. Not just the trash talking, but how hard he played, but then how hard everyone in that era played. And that
Yeah.
was when
Oh,
basketball started to take off. Was
the
was
Bill Lambier, the rise of Dennis Rodman.
You had the bad boys in
Yeah.
the Pistons, and a lot of people I think either don't know or forget that Jordan had to get past, because they was in the East. He had to get past first Larry Bird and the Celtics, and then he had to get past the Pistons before he started winning his championships. And the way the Pistons figured out how to defend Jordan was to simply commit second-degree assault on the court, because you could back then. And yeah, you might get a foul, but you know what? You keep him from scoring, and you have scoring at an all-time high right now. That this year, the past couple of years in the NBA, scoring is at an all-time high, but viewership's not at an all-time high.
Yeah, and similar to the NFL, I think one of the things that's making it more boring is just the sheer number of clock stoppages. And it's not only fouls, but it's also TV timeouts. It's all the things that they stop the clock for.
Well, and the injury timeouts seem to be escalating, and in part because the official can now call an injury timeout. There doesn't have to be a guy on the ground.
Yeah,
But
well, if
if,
someone upstairs can call an injury timeout.
hey, that was a funky hit, he needs to be checked
He
out.
wobbled a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So you add to that everything else that's going on. And, you know, I watched, I kind of, when it started to get woke, we both kind of fell off with football a little bit. We didn't play fantasy for a couple of years, and I watched more football this year than I have the past couple of years, but it was mostly watching the Cowgirls and then a couple other teams I cared about. Whereas in the past, I watched every game just because I wanted to see the games,
You know
and
what's
they're just
interesting
not
next year,
exciting.
since we're on YouTube, let's go, and we've constantly pooped on them, let's give them some love. I think I'm going to get YouTube Premium, and because you can get the Sunday ticket on YouTube now. And so you can watch the games anywhere, not just on the TV you have direct TV on, and you don't have to pay $200 for your direct TV in order to get the Sunday ticket added to that. So
Mhm.
I think I'm going to do that this next coming year. So we will watch all the games.
Yeah, I was thinking about that if we're gonna, especially if we end up, talking more football, which we kind of did just about every week. We at least talked a little football this
Well,
season,
we definitely did when playoffs came around.
and then we definitely did when
Yeah.
playoffs came around. But I don't know. I'm maybe if I watch more games, I will be more excited. But even watching the Cowboys, who had one of the better defenses in the league, and certainly the best defense they've had in a while, it was good because they swarmed to the ball and they schemed well to put pressure on the quarterback. It it wasn't. Oh, and this is one of the examples I was going to mention was Trayvon Diggs' whiff against Kittle in that playoff game. And you can make the case that that would have drastically increased the Cowboys' chances of winning that game if they hadn't scored on that drive, because I think that was the touchdown they scored late. Was that bobble that Kittle had and Diggs comes flying in. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he got a little discombobulated because his brain got split in half about hit Kittle or go for the ball. And it in the end, it kind of looked like he didn't do either. But if he'd have come flying in there like Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu or one of those guys, Kittle would still be picking his brain off the turf. Okay. And that never would have been a catch. And even now, the way I understand the rules, you could have knocked him out of his shoes because he tipped the ball. On a tipped ball, the rules change a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes flying in there to either do that kind of, high speed contact hit rather than an actual tackle, or maybe he was going for the ball to avoid the head.
Well, what he
I don't
might have
know.
been doing was going for the hit, saw the ball got tipped up, and decided he could play a tip drill, and that
And just
and
whiffed.
ended
Yeah.
up not getting either. Yeah, because nothing DBs like better than a tip drill. They like to lay the
Well,
hit, but the tip drill is an easy pick.
especially Diggs, because he's known
Yeah.
as a ball hawk because he
Yeah.
played wide receiver in college.
Yeah, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he saw the tip and wanted to go for it. Unfortunately, I wish I would have watched that game a little closely, but there were boobs in the room, so I actually was quite distracted for that whole game. But
Speaking of boobs, in the metaphorical sense, I will this may not be much comfort, but I will say to my friends who are Philly fans or any Philly fans out there, look on the bright side. I don't know what that last play was that was a Hail Mary that was 20 yards short of any receiver.
I think his arm was hit.
Yeah, but it wasn't as embarrassing as the Cowboys last play, which I still don't know what that was supposed to be.
uh, yeah, no, but it was overall a good game. The down the I didn't think it was boring, but that field was. I mean, the players themselves were coming out and saying it was the worst field, and you know, it's not like the old Soldier Field, but it still was. Or was it Soldier Field that was? No, it was. What was Philly's stadium? Veteran Stadium.
Veterans because it was turf under a very thin layer of turf on top of concrete, and
And
it
there
was
was like
brutal.
potholes and stuff in it.
Yeah.
Players would be talking about how they would just be running at full speed and their ankle just goes and yeah. So yeah, granted, none of these players had played on that, but still, it was like a slip and slide out there. You could see they were
Yeah.
trying to plant their foot.
And I was curious about that because we've seen several Super Bowls in that stadium, and
Well,
I don't know
apparently
what if
they
they've changed
painted the
things.
turf to make it greener.
Well, that's stupid.
Well, so we figured out because yeah, usually
I hadn't
when
heard
you're
that.
lining up for a field goal or something, you don't get on the logos because they are more slick. But
Yeah.
one of the announcers, I think, was saying that they had painted the turf because of something weather or something or another. And
Well, one of the cool things about that stadium is that's real turf because they have this thick base that's on tracks and they wheel it outside
yeah, they do
so
the
that it
same
can
thing in
get sun.
Houston too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's real turf. That's cool. But maybe the weather or what they may have done, it may not have been painted, but you know that green uh
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
fertilizer spray
Yeah.
that they spray out in the winter? They may have done that to try and fertilize it and winterize it. But I would think that in Phoenix, you don't really have a winter, and with water, you should be able to keep
Yeah, but they had that part
green.
of that big freeze that we all got.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
because
may
I
have been
remember
it.
a couple weeks ago they were talking about, oh, it's going to be good for the Super Bowl though. So they did have some.
It may have made their turf dormant then. Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, there was that, and then of course everybody's still talking about that pass interference or the defensive holding,
It wasn't
which
pass interference, but it was holding. I
yeah,
mean, my
and
Pereira was right.
this is why I was like, see, Mike Pereira is the one that agrees, and I was mad at the whole team except for Pereira because the announcers they were single-mindedly talking
Focusing
about
on it, yeah.
focusing on it, but they were focusing on the clip that kept playing, which was after the penalty. And I'm just like, play the whole thing. Pereira's
That
telling you this is the penalty happened before this clip. But they kept playing the same clip over
they
and commenting on that clip.
they
And even the
showed it on the
players,
first replay because they showed the full play.
mhm.
But then after that, they kept showing the part where I forget the receiver, Valdez Scantling, I think it was.
No, that
When
was Smith Schuster,
Smith Schuster,
who had an excellent game, by the way. Now that it doesn't help me in fantasy.
when he broke away, there was a little bit of like a hand check, maybe a little jersey pull there, but that's not what they flagged. They flagged when he cut in and then went to cut back. He was clearly being held.
Yeah, almost spun around.
Yeah.
It was so yeah, and this is where the NFL seems to have been making a PR push for people to be angry about officiating. And I almost wonder if they're like, just show this, just show this. You know, where the old NFL, where we're talking about back in the old days, they would have protected their refs.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been like, no, 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 this was a good call. Every fan's going to be mad if it goes against their team, but this was a good call.
Uh, it makes me wonder if somebody feels like all publicity is good publicity.
Mm-hmm.
So long as people are talking, it doesn't matter what they're talking about.
But even the DB came. He's like, "Yeah, I tried to get away with one there, and I didn't."
Well, and that's what you do because he cut inside, so you're inside. You're theoretically blocked to that side judge, so you think you can get away with one.
Well, not only that though, but as a former defensive player, primarily defensive player, you're actually taught that if you truly are burned like that, the
Take the
penalty's
penalty.
better. The
Yeah.
penalty's better than the TD.
Hmm.
So there are intentional holdings, and just like on the offensive line, linemen are taught if you're burned that bad, protect your quarterback. 10 yards is better than a concussion,
Hmm.
and especially if it's on his blind side. So you will see linemen hold, and if you really analyze the play, they knew they were just completely beat, and their quarterback was going to get
Hmm.
smacked. And
Yeah.
in the old days, and some now, the good teams now, what you see when you see a good line, they actually care about their quarterback getting hit or not. These
Hmm.
linemen, they take it as an insult if they give up a play that their quarterback gets hurt. We'll go back to the Cowboys back when they were good, right? Remember Troy Aikman would buy. He took care of his linemen. They weren't the
Hmm.
highest paid in the league. They weren't saying they wanted the biggest contract in the league. They wanted to protect Troy Aikman because Troy Aikman loved his guys and they loved him, and it showed. And here we are in Houston, where Larry Tunzel wants to be the highest paid lineman because his last contract, where he became the highest paid lineman, that's not enough because now someone else has a bigger one. But he'll break a finger and not play for 10 games. But that's
That was going to be my talking point when I thought that the Chiefs were going to lose. When I was watching that in that first half, I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I was going to bring up the Mahomes contract and getting rid of Tyreek Hill. But they managed to pull it off. That was one of the things that made me doubt the Chiefs was what we've talked about, which is how much of your money is going to just a couple of guys, and so you don't have that depth down the roster.
yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs are the exception to my Aaron Rodgers rule, which is you don't get to the Super Bowl if you have the highest paid at any position. And the Chiefs are the exception, although he's not the highest anymore, but he was when he signed his contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's a bizarre. Now I get it to a certain degree. Uh, and I didn't like it. Uh, but I didn't like what the organization did. I understood what Zeke was doing when he held out to get an extension a couple of years before his rookie contract ran out, because in those first few years of of his career, he performed very well. He was a big uh, boost to the offense. And you've got a very short window as a running back to make literally life-changing money. So I I didn't begrudge him. I just thought it was incredibly stupid that the Cowboys acquiesced and paid him so much. Um, but
Well,
for the
here's a
quarterbacks especially.
here's a systemic solution though. And this is something about the NFL that I think would be a good change because I think it would alleviate some of the tension between players and front offices.
Mm,
All rookie quarterback or all rookie contracts are 1 year. The draft is the way it is for parity, for fairness.
mhm.
But you still, as the player, are going somewhere you may not want to go for money you don't want to make because rookie contracts are what they are. All rookie contracts are 1 year, and then it's up to the front office to win over the player. There you go. You got the parity you need because you don't just have all the players going to one good team, right out of college, and yet you still have a little bit of respect to the player to kind of steer their life course. in some way or another. They could say, I just want to get out of here. I hate Green Bay because I hate playing in the cold. I only want to do that a few games a year
Mhm.
instead of every winter month.
You could balance it for the organization uh to
Or
give them
maybe
a
like
little
a
protection,
restricted free agent kind of situation
or
where
just give them another franchise tag. So if one of their rookies, they really want to keep one of their rookies and they can't make a deal, you franchise tag him.
no, I think the restricted free agent thing would be better because then if you lose your guy, you get something in return. You get
Yeah, yeah.
compensatory picks and stuff like that. So you can try to negotiate, but then you can also end up.
That actually makes more sense because we are talking about the draft here. Your draft pick was a bust because he hates the organization, doesn't want to be there or whatever. And so you get another draft pick.
Yeah,
You get to try again the next year.
and then you got these players like you brought up Zeke, uh, our guy in Houston, Pierce had an amazing rookie year. They're not locked into a second year at this cut rate, car insurance rate,
Hmm.
uh, and have to perform. You have that ability to negotiate at that point and come in with
It,
getting
it,
what you need,
you know,
especially in a sport where you can end your career. Damar Hamlin may never play again, although he looked good at the Super Bowl the other day. So that gives us hope. He wasn't on anything special. He wasn't walking funny or anything like that. So
he didn't have oxygen on
yeah,
him. Yeah, so um but just thinking out loud here, you make a good point about that so the big reason they have these rookie contracts is because the organizations got tired of getting burnt by Jamarcus Russell, who he was kind of the worst example, but it had been going on for a while that if you picked a quarterback in the especially quarterbacks,
yeah,
but if you
Jamarcus
picked
Russell, Ryan Leaf, name your
and
bust quarterback.
every one of those guys, it was the biggest rookie contract ever. Every year was bigger than the year before, and 1 in 10, 1 in 20 of them panned out. So they were tired of getting burnt on that, which is understandable. But when you talking made me think maybe that's a big reason. Maybe that's what especially these quarterbacks have in their head when they go so hard for that first contract after the rookie contract is I need to get paid for what I just did. It's not just that, you know, Dak Prescott, it's not just that I want the ego trip of being a $40 million quarterback and being the highest paid after whoever just signed their contract. This is also making up for the fact that you are paying me $1 million a year for the last 3 years when I was clearly worth way more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would help. I think it would help part of that too, because then you wouldn't. It would even out the pay. You wouldn't get into cap hell because you could say, okay, you're working out. You are who we hoped you would be. So now let's set up a longer term contract for $25 million a year over a longer deal rather than the 40 million over shorter, which is going to put you in cap hell. I think we just solved the problem. It's a shame nobody watches us.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm looking for something on YouTube. Oh, that's too long. Okay, well, I'll just talk about it. Uh, but this is another thing that so there's the rookie 1 year contracts in my plan, restricted free agents, so they're obligated to try to sign with the team they were, but if it doesn't work out, that team gets some compensation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but also these front offices need to take a hard stand on what it means to win games versus just be paid to play games. And what I was looking for was the video, and I came across it on Instagram earlier, but wanted to do it on YouTube for all the copyright reasons and stuff that we have. But it's Juju Smith-Schuster was told on air in the post game, or was asked about his $1 million bonus for winning the Super Bowl, and he's like, "We get $1 million bonus for winning the Super Bowl?" Well, there you go.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, educating the players on what it means to win versus what it means to just play.
Hmm.
You get $1 million bonus if you win the Super Bowl. You get 500,000 just for being there. You get a bonus for every playoff game you win. So you're trying to sign a contract for 2 million more when you could have, you know, all these bonuses stack up to the 2 million if you have a good team around you.
Hmm.
The front offices need to be better about educating these players on this and selling the public on it so that it's not this whole mob behind the players to get the best deal.
As well as you win playoff games, that increases the likelihood that you get exposure, so you get better endorsement deals.
Mm-hmm. Exposure endorsement deals, bonuses. Uh, I like incentivized contracts. Now there's a gaming of that system with which the players don't like. Like say, if you get 1,000 yards, who had this contract? Was it Barry Sanders? If you get over 1,500 yards or something, you get an extra $1 million on your contract or whatever for this year. And at 1,490, the coach takes him out because the front office is going, we already lost this game, so don't let him have those yards. So there is a gaming of that system, but if we can have transparency where we can maybe have open emails or something to prevent that, that would. But I like incentive contracts, especially for the young guys that want to make money, but they have to prove themselves.
Yeah, makes sense, which is probably why it'll never happen.
Well, what you can again, we'll take the game out of the system. Always think of ungaming the system. Make the incentives not count towards the salary cap.
Mm, that's a good point. You would need. I feel like though you would need a separate cap for that, or you would entirely defeat the entire purpose of the cap, which is so that uh the Browns can compete with the Cowboys as far as
Mm-hmm.
a roster cost goes. So you would still need to create some sort of upper limit for that.
Make it an NFL wide thing. Make a pot go into the NFL. Running backs that break 1,000 yards get an extra this. Running backs
I
that break 1,500 yards get an extra this.
I was actually thinking about that while you were talking because I don't know how you would do this, but one of my thoughts was I kind of like the way the MLB does it. They don't have a hard cap, they have a luxury tax. And so then if you're the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers or the Cubs, feel free to spend a gazillion dollars, but the league is going to tax you for that extra roster cost. And then we're going to take that money and spread it out amongst the lower markets so that the Kansas City Royals still have a chance at winning the series. And so you could do something like that with the NFL and use that luxury tax type thing for these incentive bonuses.
I think that's fair. Something that doesn't affect the cap. It doesn't. Well, the reason I don't like it with the luxury tax is you still allow the teams to stack. Whereas if it was, this is where we can take some lessons from socialism. If it was something that was everybody puts into the pot, basically you pay the ante to the league to play the game, and your team is in, and that ante is used for all these bonuses, so the players win.
Mm. Yeah, but it also part of that is I'm curious about how the teams get paid, um, how the cut is for the league, because if you're the Cowboys or who's another marquee team that gets a lot of uh prime time TV slots, right? So the Cowboys are one of those teams because they have a large national audience. Even when they're doing badly, they tend to get scheduled for those Sunday night and Monday night, prime time focus games. You're going to get more money out of those games because you're going to get more viewership out of those games. So I've always
Oh,
wondered, so how
thank you,
does the league
internet.
split that up?
Thank you, internet. Home teams receive 60% of ticket sales, while the other 40% is entered into a pot that is split between all teams in the league.
Well, that's ticket sales though, but then how does the TV contract money get split up, I wonder?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure if I got that in just a quick search, oh,
Hmm.
NFL economics, how do NFL teams make money? I'll bring that up for future research and I'll bookmark it.
All right. Well, we've meandered on about foosball for a while. So for all of the three people still watching, what
uh,
where do we want to go from here? Did you
what all topics did we talk about again?
did you have commie cough stuff to what to talk? Do you want to go into that? Because there was a little bit. I don't know how much you wanted to dive into that.
Specifically,
The commercial. I mean, because that
oh yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
related
Okay, so
to.
this is a good segue because it was during the Super Bowl, and I keep plaque psoriasis. That was the what the drug was for. So for those that were watching the Super Bowl, it started with an S was the drug, but it was for plaque psoriasis. And if anybody was paying attention to the disclaimers, uh, uh, I wrote it down word for word when I sent it to you. So I want to get it word for word. Let me look that up real quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
I had missed this one, and I've been ranting about the commercials
okay.
several times when we've talked COVID because the only time I've really ever watched TV is to watch sports, and when I see these drug commercials, they drive me bananas.
Okay. So in the midst of, if you're, peeing blood and your eyeballs are falling out and blah, 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 all the disclaimers they have, it popped out and it said, tell your doctor if you've been vaccinated or if you plan to be vaccinated. And I was like, uh, this is an adult drug and you're consulting with your doctor, so it's not your kid. Uh, what vaccine are they talking about? And
That was my first
why?
thought when you said that. I was like, wait, did they just mean in general or a
Yeah, because
specific
I mean, I've
vaccine
been
that shall not
vaccinated
be
for
named?
like 70 things when I was a kid.
Or
And
every time I go into the urgent care because I've just stabbed myself with a garden implement, it's when was the last time you had a tetanus booster? I don't remember. All right, we're gonna
ooh,
give you another one
yeah,
now.
I'm due for that. Because the last time I had mine was when I stabbed my leg with the pitchfork,
Ow.
and that was 2011. So I need a new one. That was a fun time. I was trying to move a rock that a snake had gone under, and I was pulling with the pitchfork, and it kind of bent, and then like a slingshot
Bounce
went, pow,
back.
and
Ow.
it shot right into my leg. That was fun. At least it was one of those skinny tined pitchforks, so it wasn't a big giant stab through the leg. It was just a rusty, sharp stab through the leg.
My last one was as I flip you off here. I cut a chunk of my middle finger off with a pair of rusty pruning shears
Yeah,
because
nice.
I was over my head and I was like behind one branch to get the branch behind it, and I wasn't really watching what I was doing and snip.
So I was that left me wondering why a drug would interact with the vaccine so much, and I haven't been able to research this very much because we're the day after the Super Bowl here. Although this might come up Tuesday just because we're doing it
Mhm.
at night, uh, but yeah, it was just funny that we're seeing in other drug commercials warnings about a certain inoculation.
That is the only time I have ever heard a warning. And that's something I've complained about is be you have all these PSAs that are really just advertisements for
Oh yeah, yeah. The
big
Paxlovid
drug.
commercials had
Mhm.
the full thing now. Yeah.
And so previously, because they're still under the emergency use authorization, and so they can call these, you know, get your vaccine, uh they can call it a PSA. It's not a drug advertisement. So they don't have to list the problems, the potential side effects like every other, drug commercial does. And that was driving me bananas. And so now this is the first time I have ever heard anything even remotely official when it comes to potential side effects and problems. It makes me wonder if we're on a tipping point here, where this is going to start to be
Well, I would
admitted
say you're
finally.
probably correct. And the reason being is notice all of this started happening when we had the switch in the house. They're actually making companies follow the rules.
Well, w- I don't know what kind of power they have because it's part of the executive branch, but the FDA is the problem here. Is it the FDA or is it the CDC? Who keeps extending the EUA?
FDA. They're
The
the ones
FDA.
that do that. Yeah.
They're the ones that need to be held accountable now because that's how the private companies are able to duck responsibility and able to dodge uh, the normal safeguards that are supposedly around other drugs that are released.
And all the while they're not doing anything about pharma companies, they're silently, sneakily trying to regulate the supplement industry now. But in so doing, not in the way I always wanted the supplement industry to be regulated, which is because it's part of the problem. But regulated in the way of you have to pass inspections and that kind of thing. You have to prove that what's in your supplement is what you say it is.
Yes.
You know, things like that. But no, it's basically a pay for play. You have to get licensed and pay all of these fees, and you have to pay for your own independent testing of your supplements, and it's basically going to make sure that only the big supplement
Mhm.
companies can exist now.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always how it is. What it should be is make sure that my protein powder is actually protein powder and not 70% sawdust,
Hmm.
right? But what it will be is well what we talked about, I think we brought this up again last time was the Facebook whistleblower who wasn't really a
Hmm.
whistleblower. It was all about trying to create momentum for
Yeah,
regulation.
she blew enough whistles to get things to go in the direction Facebook
And
wanted.
it just so happens that the regulations that are enacted, uh, the big company, like if it's Facebook, if it's social media, or it's Amazon, if it's something to do with e-commerce, it just so happens that though that big company already meets the regulations. Huh. How'd that happen?
Hmm.
I wonder. It's a
I wonder.
coincidence.
Coincidence. Somehow she was allowed to talk on the social media she was whistleblowing on.
Yeah. That should have been a red
There's
flag there.
red flag number one.
All right. Well, uh speaking of things coming from China, do you care about the all this unidentified object and balloon nonsense?
Someone on Timcast had a great point on how we're not getting any information about the other ones. They're just UFOs.
Hmm.
And his point on that was this is we're going to take out the Chinese balloons and satellites and flying objects of all kinds, but we're going to give them an out politically to not have to retaliate by just calling them UFOs. We
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
It it's a possibility, and if that were the case, um, well, this may be opening up another can of worms, but I'm not wild about how a lot of people on the right are addressing this new. Have you seen this new news story of somebody who's been around since Watergate? So he's not a conservative, he's not a right-leaning pundit. This is an actual journalist who has broken a lot of stories over the past 40 years. And he had this big expose, I want to say in the Washington Post, but don't quote me on that because I can't remember, about how we are the ones who blew up the Nord Stream 2
Oh,
pipeline.
it was on the one Glenn Greenwald used to be. He founded
The Intercept.
Intercept. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember where it originated from, and I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
because
he's the
I
one that exposed what was it, Myanmar or something massacre.
Me Lai
My
in
Lai massacre.
Vietnam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'd forgotten that was the big one. Of he is the one who exposed that. Um, luckily my wife isn't in here to make fun of me for mispronouncing that, but it's not my fault. Viet is an incredibly hard language. Anyway, um, so this isn't some right-leaning guy, and he came out with this expose of how we're the ones who did this, and he has sources, and he explains how it was done and all this and blah blah blah. That's not
Well,
the
and
point.
and this is the hard part because anonymous sources. But these are anonymous sources that if they weren't anonymous, they would be Epsteined.
Yes. Even though there are
Well,
whistleblower
no, I would
protection
say
laws, but
I won't say as much as Epstein, but what they would be is at least Snowden,
Mhm.
where they would or Assanged. You know, they would be enemies
Yeah.
of the state and they would be taken
And,
to jail. Yeah.
this is one of my problems here is I understand why the more right-leaning people I listen to are covering it this way, but I also have a problem with it of I completely disagree with a lot of the analysis of this because I don't have a problem with this. To me, this is the kind of thing our government is supposed to do. You know, the old-fashioned Cold War espionage type stuff that we
Well,
used to
except it
do.
would be an official act of war.
My 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 only problem is with the incompetence of it or the duplicitousness of it because you potentially just got us into World War III doing this. Now, maybe it needed to be done because this posed a grave threat to national security. And if that is your uh if that is your analysis, then that's what you're supposed to do because one of the few legitimate functions of government is to protect the people from foreign threats. Where it gets funky is how they seem to have purposefully structured this in a way to keep Congress out of the loop. Because if you, the executive, make that decision, fine, but there's supposed to be oversight from our congressional representatives. I digress. But the point is the problem is in an ideal world, I would say, why are we talking about this? Keep this quiet because these are the kinds of things the government is supposed to do. Except we can't trust our government anymore. Did you actually do this because you honestly evaluated this as a threat to to US national security, or did you do this for personal or ulterior motives? We can't trust you.
Mhm.
And you see a lot of people on the left and the Democrats bemoaning the fact that the populace doesn't trust our institutions anymore. Well, why is that, do you think? You never hear those same people complaining that uh that the people no longer trust their institutions and they blame it on conspiracy theories and completely ignore all the entirely legitimate reasons that people across the political spectrum or people like you who for a very long time were apolitical no longer trust their institutions. So you can say that was an extraterrestrial alien UFO for sure. Yeah, I don't believe you. That was a Chinese spy satellite for sure. Yeah, I don't believe you.
Well, I don't want it to be an extraterrestrial because they obviously are more technologically advanced
Yes.
than we are. And if we're blowing them out of the sky and we piss them off,
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
scare me a shit ton more than the fucking Chinese. So, yeah. So I hope it was Chinese or Russian or, you know, some random person that doesn't like us country or even Canadian. It could be the Canadians. They can suck an egg right now, uh but no, this is where I kind of get in trouble with both sides because I am anti-interventionist and foreign war for the most part, but I'm also pro defense spending. I think we could have the best of both worlds. Everybody talks about the industrial complex. I think we can spend money on that, and those people can make lots of money without starting fucking wars everywhere.
Yeah.
We could just focus it on being that place that nobody wants to fuck with because we're the most technologically advanced. Our soldiers are the best trained. They're treated well, so people want to be soldiers. All of these things that we could be doing, drilling constantly, making them badass, making the average soldier like an Army Ranger, and the average Army Ranger like a Navy SEAL, and the Navy SEALs like freaking cyborg RoboCop warriors, right? We could be doing that with that
Yeah.
money, and we could be spending the same money, and the same people could be making the money without blowing up Syria or without messing with Russia to piss them off so they have to
Mm-hmm.
think they need to invade Ukraine, without making the Chinese angry enough to actually do something stupid for once. You
Hmm.
know, the Chinese, they have generational plans when it comes to warfare, but we
Yes,
are pushing them right now to do something stupid and rash. We could be spending that same money just being the US badass. That's just me.
could be, but
Yeah.
we won't because the people in charge of making those decisions would rather enrich themselves and kick the can down the road, thinking, eh, this this terrible possibility isn't going to happen, but if it does, that'll be someone else's problem because I won't be here anymore.
I have really good insurance, as we figured out in this whole truck being stolen debacle. I have really good insurance, and we actually paid pretty decent for this. We didn't get the cut rate stuff, right? I love the Mayhem commercials. We didn't have Allstate, but I do love the Mayhem commercials.
Mhm.
We didn't have cut rate insurance, and we paid a lot for it. But I'm not going out and ramming cars to use my insurance.
Yeah.
So we could be doing the same thing as a country, and I would be 100% happy for my tax dollars going there.
Yep.
But I am not 100% happy with my tax dollars going to these insurrection attempts in another country that end up propping up a terrorist organization that we end up fighting later. That's what I'm not happy with. And unfortunately, we got a massive terrorist organization called Russia right now. And that's no joke because they have nuclear arms. And we got we call it the sleeping tiger is China. And all we're lucky about right now is Russia and China aren't very friendly with each other either at this point. If
Hmm.
they were chums, this would be done.
They they are
They're on speaking
close.
terms, but they're not friends.
They are economically close because China is voracious when it comes to um raw materials, as we've kind of talked about last time when we were talking about uh literal slave labor in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Um that's one of the reasons China is so heavily involved there. And Russia is where, so when the West started to close off economically after the Ukraine invasion, all Russia did was upped its sales to China, which was China was more than happy to participate in.
Well, let's go on to population collapse. You know, since we're being so positive right now, uh, a lot of the experts on this are talking about China because they're so old. That was it 1.7 billion people right now by
About that, yeah, I think.
yeah, in not the distant future, that's going to be down to about 600 billion people, or 600 million people. So that's a significant collapse. It's about a billion people switch because they're old. They don't have young people.
Hmm.
And when when you get to a certain age, you become a consumer and not a producer. So their economy is just going to collapse long even
Yep.
before that. So so what's the solution to that for China? It's too late to just have babies. The elephant in the room in that conversation that nobody talking about these things will say they kind of think they're wishing into the wind that China just collapses and then kind of rebuilds after that as a different country or just a rebuilding country with some foreign help. But the elephant in the room is the solution to that problem is slavery because then you just make producers to take
That's
care of your consumers.
that's what they're doing in Xinjiang. That's that
Yeah,
was I, that
and the reluctance for people to talk about that is they're eventually they're going to use military force to create a large slave population, and the West is going to have to fight that.
they're already doing it. Go look
Not
at,
on the scale that they need, though. That's the thing.
well,
Yeah.
on a scale that is profitable now. That was what pissed me off so
Mm-hmm.
much about all those electric vehicle commercials last night is, oh, you mean the vehicles where the giant batteries are being made by literal slave labor in Xinjiang by Uyghur concentrate in Uyghur concentration camps? Kind of like the next time I get a call or a knock on my door from someone trying to sell me solar panels, I'm going to lay into them about why are you supporting slave labor?
Okay, so now let's get even darker. TikTok. TikTok is making us dumber as a population.
And spying on us, including keystroke capture, by the way.
Yeah, but also well, facial recognition too. TikTok reads your facial expression to know if you liked the video. So by the way, turn your
Was
forward
not aware of that.
facing camera off. Uh, but no, but it is actually reducing gray matter in brains. So this is actually physically making people dumber. And Instagram is copying with Reels and YouTube Shorts and everybody's because it's a great business model because you can almost not help but flip and flip and flip and flip. If you want a slave population, wouldn't you want a bunch of youth in that population to be dumb? We're being
One
set up to be the slave labor for Chinese old people.
one of the long running intellectual philosophical debates through the Cold War era, later Cold War era, was who was right, Orwell or Huxley, 1984 or Brave New World? And the answer was yes.
Yes, yes.
Because one was 1984 is the authoritarian uh, on high subjugating us. The other is we are so drugged up and easily entertained that we don't care. So 1984 is the model of using force to subjugate so that the authoritarian clique can maintain power. And in Brave New World, it's make the population so dumb and carefree that they'll just let you do whatever you want. And the
Well,
answer
I'd
is
say
yes.
1984 had that too, though. But you had to read the parts that you would have to empathetically look at the proles.
Yes, that
So
was
so yeah,
because he
if
didn't pay
yeah,
attention to that. Yeah, that was just kind of on the side, but
yeah,
that was part of it. Yeah.
Winston's point of view was the force, but the proles were in that we're happy go lucky because remember he always brings up the girl singing while she's hanging her clothes and it was always the new fad of the day song that it would come out and it was it's like the 1984 version of TikTok. It was the trend.
Mhm.
The proles were always repeating the trends.
Yep. Yep.
So next time you see what's trending, realize it's a bunch of people just being unique like everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Oy vey. All
That got
right.
dark.
Well, speaking of being unique like everyone else, let's get swole, bro.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you want to do that part, or you're gonna piss me off with martial arts stuff first?
No, the martial arts stuff is I actually had to say you said something. Oh, about China being a tiger.
Tiger,
Did you
tiger,
did
tiger.
did you ever get around to watching that
Birdie,
movie I
birdie.
told you to go watch, Paper Tigers?
No, I don't remember you telling me, but
It's I just looked it up. It's available on Prime right now. Um
paper. After this, I might have actually some time because my
so,
baseball players play today. So
so this drove me nuts, and halfway through the movie it dawned on me, oh my gosh, that's Master Kin. He's actually in the movie. And it took me halfway through to realize it because
Master Ken.
he doesn't have the mustache. And without the mustache, I didn't recognize him. You'll know him when I see him. Hold on a second. We're here. Chat
My
and go.
my favorite martial arts parody is actually from a movie I didn't like, which is Napoleon Dynamite with what's his name that played Oswald in Drew Carey show.
Oh yeah.
Grab my hand. No, other hand. No, my other hand. Whack.
Paper Tigers is great because it's like the kind of movie we would have made if we had stuck with all that nonsense.
Oh,
Because
we need to get the gang back together. And now that we're all adults and we can like do this stuff and YouTube is free, we need to make my ass.
The
My ass is militant individuals against social stupidity, by the way.
Yes. The movie starts out is they're young kids and they're doing, the kung fu training, and it's all like classic Hong Kong movies. And then after the prologue, it fast forwards and they're like our age. They're like 40 years. Yeah.
Okay, so
He's in the
finish what you were saying, and I'll.
so then it fast forwards and they're like our age. And so not only have they forgotten all those skills, but their back hurts all the time. And one guy can't do all the things he used to do because he's got a knee brace on from when he fell off a scaffold.
All right. Is that full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you want me to pause and react as we go, or do you want me to just play?
Yeah,
How far do you
sure.
want me to play?
No, just go, man. Just go.
Rabbit's back in the dojo, this time with Nelita, who was the star of one of our most hated videos due to her faulty techniques. Welcome back.
Finally got it right. It is your sensei, Nelita B, and I'm here to teach an old master some new tricks.
What we're going to do today
odd.
is have Nelita go through a series of Filipino martial arts techniques, also
Let's
known
see how
as
she can handle a
bullshit
stick.
martial arts techniques, and then I will deconstruct each lesson and give you the Ameridote way.
All right, let's see him act a fool.
A fool fighter,
As you are.
as in I fight fools. I'm not the fool. Fools come up to me,
Sound a little confused on that one.
and I'm like, "What's up, fool?" And then I fight. Today's episode is brought to you by the new film, The Protege, which is why I, the master, am here with my protege.
Me, the master. He's my protege.
Right, maybe we ought to compare ranks. Just go ahead and break out your belts and we'll just see who... Oh, how many stripes do you... I don't see any... anybody see any stripes anywhere?
The thing is, I brought my belt, but Todd's not here to put any stripes on him.
Well, Todd can't promote you, so...
Would that make him the grandmaster?
That'd make him my assistant to do the stuff I don't have time to do because I'm busy being a master.
Sensei Bay and my protege.
Anyway, watch the film.
It's gonna be great.
The thing that's different.
Let's see.
Who watches YouTube without an ad blocker?
Let me see if I can get past the ad, and then bring it back up. So fill in the time. Hold on.
So I like the Filipino martial arts, also known as BS martial arts, because there's like a double layer there of style snobbery. This is something I've ranted about because Crowder does this and it drives me bananas. Of everybody else's style is BS, but you have your own.
It's my problem
style.
with the jujitsu guys.
Yeah.
This is the point I don't agree with Rogan on. I'm like, grappling is grappling. You can only bend an arm so many ways without hurting it. And I did catch can wrestling, but I also did jujitsu. And realistically, the weakness of jujitsu is it's so structured. They're out there playing chess. And if you go out there playing poker, you can actually beat them. So it's so style, style is your start, but then if you don't make it your own within it, just like Bruce Lee did, you're going to be subject to anybody who finds a weakness in that style.
Yep.
Which they don't even have to study you. They just studied the style and they found the weakness. So
look at one of my favorite UFC guys ever, Silva, because he was so fun to watch. Anderson Silva.
I was about to say there's a lot of Silvas.
A lot of
specific. Yeah.
But I mean, the dude has legit BJJ skills, and he is Brazilian, and yet he would go out there and he was not going out there like your typical Brazilian fighter. He would do off the wall stuff, and you could see people freeze up going, what's happening here? What's going on? I don't know how to react to this.
Well, a good example is Ben Askren, one of the best, most decorated wrestlers ever. And Masvidal came out there and basically took a wrestler out like you would. A knee to the face when they shoot. And he basically just studied the wrestling shot to time his knee. And he's got the fastest knockout in UFC history, at least at the time it was, because Askren shot in right away and he took a knee to the face, which he never got up from. Well, he got up from eventually, but not during the match. It's, if you are so identified with a style, then you have the weakness of the style.
And here's an ad for the film that the studio made me insert into this video because this video is also an ad. But since they didn't actually put me in the movie, I'm just going to talk over it. So it's called The Protege, starring.
I do want to watch this.
You might remember him as the old
to.
Batman, Maggie Q, and Samuel L. Jackson, who likes to say Mother Trucker. It's in theaters August 20th. So there you go, Lionsgate.
It's Nalita V here, and I am back to show you a new technique from FMA. I am joined by who I've come to know as Nasty Nate. We're gonna go ahead and go into a technique. So with FMA, like I've explained before, it's not necessary to have a weapon. Yes, we deal with weapons, we master weapons. However, everything I do with a weapon can be done with empty hand as well. I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate with the collie or the Arnie stick. If you don't have these, if you don't walk around with them, this could be a rolled up newspaper. It can be an umbrella on a rainy day or a sunny day, depending on when you carry it.
I think I am actually going to get one of those rods that you can push the button and it shoots out, and it's like, yeah, because that's a pretty dang cool thing to have you just on your keychain or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially they're making them. I don't know what material they're using, but those are strong as hell right
Probably
now.
carbon fiber now.
Yeah.
You make it really light and really strong.
Which, by the way, they use carbon capture to make, so it's good for the environment.
But nonetheless, the technique is always the same. Now, when Nate is first coming in and trying to strike me, the first thing I want to do, I want to avoid a stick fight. I don't want to have to fight with sticks, but if I have to, when he goes ahead and strikes me, I'm going to go ahead and destroy what we call the fang of the snakes. I want to go ahead and hit those knuckles, because 9 times out of 10, people are going to want to release that weapon. They don't want to hold on to it. So in reality, when he strikes again, I'm coming across right onto those knuckles. And then I run away. Now let's just say that doesn't work. And I want to go ahead and go into a technique with Nate. When he gives me that strike, I'm giving a sweep block going across, coming around and zoning, grabbing at the weapon, and releasing his. Okay, I'll break that down for you nice and slow. So when he strikes again, I don't want to just do this, because I'm going to walk right into that weapon. He strikes, I step around, striking him first, simultaneously coming around with a choke grab, and then
An uncomfortable strike, but that would not have any power behind it.
If you walked into it.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about?
No, when she goes around the stick and hits with her own stick. Yeah, it would, if I was just standing there and someone whacked me like that, I'd be like, oh, fuck. But in a fight situation, there would be not enough power to even distract somebody realistically there.
and pulling at that weapon. From here, you can bring them down or whatever else you decide to do. One last time, we're gonna break that down. He strikes, block and check.
This
Second
strike right
one,
here.
Coming across at the temple or the face.
And she let
Onto
go of the
choke
arm
and
with the
grab
weapon.
At the same time, make sure to really grab what's holding onto that weapon. Pull and release. And there's your technique. Thank you, Nasty Nate.
All right, my number one problem with this FMA, which by the way is not Filipino martial arts when it's in my dojo, it's phony martial arts, FMA, is that she continues
Neither of them
to
start with F.
stipulate that you can do this technique with anything. You can have a weapon. You don't need a weapon. Make up your mind, okay? If I'm gonna teach someone how to defend themselves with a can of soup, I'm gonna have a can of soup. Step two is I don't like all of
Pause
this
it a second.
swinging. Okay, why? It makes your hands too busy. You need your tiger claws available at all times. So if he is facing off and about to hit me with a stick, first thing I'm going to do with my stick is secure it in a place where I can use it but keep my hands free. I'm going to be tucking it up in here, okay, in my pelvic area, okay, doing a sort of cat stance kind of position here, bending the base leg to keep balance, okay? And now I have all of this that I can use to block. So as he comes in, I'm gonna move right inside, okay, the arc, pressing my face against the knuckles. If I get hit with the knuckles,
My face in your fist style.
I don't wanna take it. This is bad, okay? This is fine. And aligning here, the stick, Okay? Notice how easily I can strike the groin just by pressing down on his knuckles, striking the groin. I can do it multiple times. Here, boom, 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 okay? As he then drops down, taking the stick from him, then if I have other attackers, now I've got some double stick techniques I can do, 2 groins at once. I can take on 2 groins at a time. And as always, restomp that groin.
All right, pause just a second.
Here are the
Restomp
Navy
groin.
SEALs 3 rules for surviving a real world assault. Rule number 1.
Stop.
Quiet you. All right, so always restomp the groin. This is actually so kind of like with bro science, there are like layers to the irony. Because the soup can thing is kind of right in a way. Like, did you ever do any Kali stuff with the people you trained with?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's right. The you know, the actual legit martial artist, the Master Ken isn't actually legit martial artist too. He's just, you know, a dork. But she's right in that these techniques don't have to be with a Kali stick. The problem is you actually have to practice that or it's going to be weird. You're going to be caught in a real world situation and you're going to think, where's my Kali stick? You know, it's kind of like, you know, when we started doing Jeet Kune Do and it came from one of Bruce Lee's ideas is, why do you always go barefoot? You're not barefoot when you're walking around in the street and you get in a fight, you know? So, hold on, let me take my shoes off and put my gi on so we can have this street fight. You have to practice that stuff. And I do have a problem with some of the places where I trained. You can say the Kali stick can be anything, even your open hand. Okay, well, then you have to practice that at least a little bit so it's not weird. You know, it's like the first time you go driving somewhere and it's like, this is weird. Everything looks strange. I don't know where I'm going.
Well, from so the difference between the classical and then when I was doing MMA is the sparring time is exponentially more in MMA. And the difference between fighting somebody, even in the same weight class, who's 6'4" versus 5'6", is so different in feel. And that's whether you're grappling or on your feet. And that sparring time with all different types of training partners makes a huge difference. Because again, like you said, well, I could keep it in MMA. I can keep it in sport. When you fought in Mexico, the opponent you were supposed to fight isn't your opponent. In fact, it's usually the exact opposite of your opponent. The fat lucha libre wrestler I was supposed to fight turned out to be the tall, skinny Brazilian kickboxing champion that I fought. So it was the feel of fighting somebody, even when you have limited tools like your fists and your feet, is so different from one to the other. Grappling with somebody who's tall and lean is way different than grappling with somebody who's short and bulky.
Why they called Anderson Silva the Spider? I mean, he fought in a weight class where everybody looked kind of the same, and then here comes this guy that looks like freaking Dhalsim from Street Fighter 2.
Well, look at so someone who's taller than me, my sweep game was really good in MMA. So those that have trained grappling, the sweep where you're on bottom and you're making a move to flip the switch. So you're not doing a submission, but you're getting to the top position and usually one or two moves. Against someone taller than me, that was easy as hell. I mean, it was so easy. But someone like Sean Shirk is on top of you. Remember him? He was, what was he, 5'6" and 180 pounds? Just that guy is almost impossible to sweep because he's just a base. He's a foundation. He has nothing but foundation. Yeah, there's no house. It's just you're beating on the brick mortar on the bottom. So someone like that, you maybe threaten it just to throw it out there, but you almost don't even attempt the sweep. So even within the parameters of your weapon, it's so different in so many different situations.
Yeah. That's what I appreciated about the place I finally found in Stillwater. Um, shortly before I left, unfortunately. With Liddell Elliott was the guy's name. If
Yeah, I went there
anyone's
with you
going to go and
that
say
one
it.
time.
At least half of our class was some kind of sparring, and it may have been something situational, so not just like free form go at it. It may have been something situational, like as a wrestling analogy. Sometimes instead of just wrestling, you're okay. One guy get down like you've just grabbed a single leg, the other guy's on top. Okay, now go. And you're trying to fight off the single leg, that kind of thing. So it may have been something situational, but it wasn't just here, let's practice this technique over and over and over again. We would work technique, and then it's okay, let's kind of freeform it a bit.
Yeah, we had it was warm up, then drill, grappling, then drill, stand up, then spar, grappling, then spar, stand up, and then free for all. That was our typical. It was a 3-hour practice. Would go through like that. So it was a lot of different situation sparring, and really stand up sparring. People don't get this. This is one of the hardest things in MMA. And I would say in boxing too, because the accidental I hit you too hards, those escalate quickly. Those escalate a lot, especially when you got some hot heads in the group. It's really beneficial to have clear-headed people in the group, because those are going to happen accidentally all the time. And when they happen accidentally and someone takes it personally, it really derails the whole training session. So
yeah,
mental toughness as well as physical toughness. But to your point, yeah, you need to train everything if you want it to be universal. You can't just take the principle can be the same, but you can't just take one training modality and say it's going to work all the time. All right, where were we?
It's Nelly TV, your Sensei babe, back yet again with Nasty Nate. It's getting pretty nasty over here. And I'm going to show you another technique
Or Nasty Nate.
MMA Filipino martial arts, all right? So today I'm going to be going ahead and using my fan. This is my trusted fan that I use all the time on vacation. No one knows the difference. Now, you're like, Nelita, how is this a weapon? Remember what I told you.
Okay, so for those that haven't done this, those are special fans. They're not they're not the one you will buy at the boutique. They have like steel ridges inside. So there's weight to them. They're probably what, 10, 15 pounds?
I don't think they're that much, but it's definitely hefty. It's not that,
It's
bamboo
substantial.
and canvas,
It's like holding a hammer.
Yeah. Especially when it's folded up, you can really feel the weight.
In FMA, everything is a weapon. This is strong enough, made out of bamboo. I can do the same type.
Oh, you could hear it when she smacks it in
Nasty
her hand.
Nate's gonna strike at me one more time. Boom! What is the first thing I want to do? Destroy those knuckles, destroy the fang of the snakes, okay? But if I'm gonna go ahead and go forward with the technique, he strikes again. I'm gonna block and check. Always check that hand. From here, we're gonna do a technique called snake in the vine. I'm gonna bring this hand around, snaking the weapon. Now, if you've got the snake strong enough or good enough, you can go ahead and disarm from there, keep on going with both the stick and the fan. But if that person doesn't let go, again, he strikes. Block and check, snake in the vine from here. I'm gonna bring my fan around. I can strike to the solar plex or to the stomach, and then continue with other strikes. Abanico, if you wanna go ahead and hit that groin, you can as well. And then from here, using my forearm to disarm the weapon, and now I've got double weapon. I can go back on vacation again. Would you like to do that again, Nasty Nate?
Only if after you hit me with the fan, you say you've been a bad boy, Raiden.
Why did Ken set me up with this? Okay, let's go ahead into the technique again. Nate, if you could just strike, and that's all I needed to do. So he's gonna strike again. I go ahead, block and check, snake in the vine, come across, abanico, and then move on to the double stick. And I'm gonna go home and call for help.
See, that one's a lot better. There was no wasted motion. There was no weak strikes that she's dependent on. She was dependent on that strike with her stick that came around the side on the other one. This one, she already checked the swing and disarmed. And realistically, the hand can only bend so much before it's going to let go. So, and we always talk about in action movies, women versus men. She's got her whole body against his wrist. in that situation. So that's actually a legitimate smaller opponent could disarm move. So I like that one.
Yeah. This is something I was gonna rant about, but it's better here with the contrast is all right, so this is one of the gripes about like people like Crowder and the guys in the mall in their pajamas scamming you for your money is hold on a second. A legit black belt in a traditional martial art is going to be a bad mamma jamma because he's been doing this for years, probably decades. But therein lies the problem, and that was something as Bruce Lee kind of identified and called it. He complained about black belt techniques. So yes, if you're doing traditional karate or even taekwondo, which we sometimes make fun of, but still, if you're doing that and doing it for years and getting to that multiple degree black belt level, you have a lot of physical skill. The problem is a lot of the techniques they're teaching require that. You're not going to be able to get just a little bit of training and have a degree of competence. You have to work these complicated techniques over and over and over and build on them in order to get that degree of competence. So that's why that second technique, that's the kind of thing that he focused on more. And he's the main one I bring up because people know him, but it's still a little complicated, but Ed Parker's Kimpo system, which we did for a little bit, is similar to that. It's a similar idea of let's take some of these more complicated traditional karate movements and kind of streamline them a little bit because yeah, that first technique she did would work if you're really fast and really good and really physical. But that second one, that's a lot simpler. That's a lot quicker to pick up.
Well, and one thing I like about what she's doing actually plays into your beef is I like her attack the fangs. Because we did with when we did Jeet Kune Do, you attack the weapon is what he would say. And I even did it with in my mixed martial arts career. You attack, you don't let them get away with just taking a feint, right? You actually damage the arm on the way in or damage the leg. But people don't understand how absolutely difficult that is because you're attacking a moving target that is attacking you, and it's a small target. You know, there's a reason they train cops to shoot for center body mass because it's the big target, right? You're not shooting for everybody talks about, oh, they should have shot the weapon out of his hand or something. Yeah, right. Come on. And it's easier in hand-to-hand combat than it would be with a gun, but at the same time, it's still really freaking hard and takes a lot of practice. And her little demonstrations there are all fine and good, but she's been practicing a long time and she's got a willing participant right now.
It goes back to where you started with this, which was the Napoleon Dynamite thing of no, attack me my other hand. No, your other hand. No. Yes, if you attack me in this specific way, like this, like I'm expecting, I can make you look like a fool. But what happens when it's free form?
Yeah, unpredictable free form. Well, one of the so when we talk motor skills, this is one of the things I do for a living. So, yay, I'm expert again. The average sports skill. So the average peak muscle contraction happens in about 0.6 seconds. The average sports skill is about 0.2 seconds. So we have to be better than average, right? And if I was to, okay, so this is something I know from personal experience is stopwatch. If I'm clicking a stopwatch and if I try to hit all zeros, I'm consistently, if I try to do it when I see the zero coming, I'm consistently 0.08 seconds off. So the reaction from my brain down to my finger is 0.80 seconds off of reality. Right? So that's a long time when it comes to someone punching you in the face. So if my trained mind is 0.08 seconds off, then having not trained that specific thing over and over and over and over and over again, which I do over and over and over again because part of my job is timing people, you're going to be way off. This is why average people don't play sports, because that 0.6 seconds of muscle contraction is like 0.9 and they're behind. We were talking about the football game earlier. The guy grabbed the guy's jersey because he was a couple ticks off of the guy making the cut, right? And he knew it, probably.
Yeah.
He admitted to grabbing it on purpose and trying to get away with it, you know? So to be able to wrap someone's knuckles who's hitting you with a stick at that moment is going to be very much on the realm of, you know, a couple maybe a tenth of a second. Not even the 0.2 of a second. So it's a pretty big ask without being extremely well versed in it. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that this is a comedy vid, but the serious people in the industry say this is how you do it. And this is the video that's going to show you how to never get hit. Like, no. The real self-defense is you're going to get hit. Here's how you create distance and get away. I like Blauer, last name Blauer, Blaur. But he has the 3 C's. It's now that I'm on the spot. Oh, it's 3 D's. It's detect, deflect, and defend. So the first one is you have to be aware of your surroundings. If you're in the parking lot in a dark alley or whatever, or where people are walking suspiciously around you, you have to be aware of all these things. So there's the detect. Deflect, he has methods like just pull your cell phone out and start yelling into it like you're yelling at somebody, because it causes everybody around you to look your direction. And it deters whoever is actually going to do something bad. And then the defend is where you actually have your self-defense methods. So but he's really good on that. But again, it's the reality that this is probably going to suck, and let's avoid it at all costs. And if we can't, better to go to jail than the hospital.
Well, this is why I've become more and more radically pro Second Amendment as I've gotten older and grumpier, because as there was a saying back in the late 19th century, the late 1800s of God created man, but Remington made them equal. Or Colt made them equal.
Colt 45. Yeah, Colt 45 made it equal. But then
it
didn't, because then there's people that are quicker on the draw. So
it is the great equalizer. But the people that are truly know what they're doing and what they're talking about, and really want you to be prepared. It's not just, all right, go buy yourself a 9mm. No. You have to know how to use it. You have to know how to draw it. You have to practice so that when you are in a high stress situation, you're able to react, because the conscious action is going to be interrupted by the scary bad thing that's going on. That's why you train. I mean, to our ranting earlier about having the big bad military, that's why money for training is so freaking important, because you have to do it and do it and do it, because that is the extreme end of both difficulty in skill and difficulty in natural action, because our natural action is to flight. It's flight or fight, because flight is our first innate reaction, because we would rather just get away, because
I don't think they're disconnected, because sometimes the reactionary strike is the deflection to get away.
True.
You again, back to Blauer, his what he teaches in his self-defense, his initial strike is actually a distance move. You put your arm out, and if you bend it a certain way, it cannot be unbent. Almost cannot be unbent by another human. And his first thing is he has everybody, their initial stress response is against whatever's coming at them. And then once that distance is made, they get away. And it's about making it a reaction, though, because it can't be cognitive. Because again, hundredths of a second make every difference. If you have to think about it, that means some signal had to come in, your brain had to mull it over, and then it come back out. Where this is actually something you want your amygdala to handle, because your amygdala gets the signal before your prefrontal cortex.
Seemingly random aside, but this is why I liked baseball when I was a kid, because you get down there, I'm in center field, you know, the batter comes up, I got a runner on this base, and so I get to think, okay, if this happens, I do this. If this happens, I do that. If this happens, I do that. If this happens, I do that. So then when the sound of the ball hitting the bat happens, I move, and I've already thought about it. So I already thought about it. So now I'm not thinking about it in the moment. I'm just moving.
This is something that I actually liked with when I was training Shaolin in San Antonio. We had random attacks in the training thing when we were just drilling or doing our thing.
Really?
Someone could randomly attack you. I mean, they were always instructed to do so by the trainer, but you didn't know about it. So you had to react to the random attack.
That's awesome.
So that was actually really cool, because most people's stress response is not conducive to survival. Because you said flight or fight. Most people's stress response, at least in Western society, which is all we know right now, is
it's confusion.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a stress breath. We call it a stress breath. And everybody says, I carry my stress here. I have this neck pain. This is a stress response. It's, you breathe with your chest and your neck comes up. So we do it low grade all day. That's why we have neck pain. But at the same time, this didn't do anything. I'm still getting attacked, and I'm not running or fighting back. So you have to have your natural reaction be something productive. You know, it has to be, I'm either responding directly to the stress, or I'm getting away from the stress, instead of I'm just taking a deep breath in and trying to figure it out. And that, I don't know if that's just a Western thing because we grew up in comfort, whereas if we were in the wild as children, we would have had to deal with stress differently, or what. But it is the way it is right now. So you actually have to be in a situation where you train your stress response to be a reaction towards or away from the stress. And pick your poison. They both have benefit. So that reaction punch can be your getaway, because now your brain's caught up to what's going on and you can run away at that point.
No, that's a good point. It's why I'm back to where we started with football. It's why contact sports were so useful for young boys, because you're introducing a controlled stress, a controlled reactionary environment where they have to react. They have to learn to react to unexpected physical force. And it is something we are more and more taking away, which is problematic.
Well, we can circle this back to football. This is why I hate the heat that this defensive back for holding got, because if you want the epitome of that reactive stress, play defense. Don't play offense. You run your route. You've patterned this thing. It's in muscle memory now. The defender has no pattern because he is completely dependent on what you do. And that happens in the moment. There are movement skills, but as far as actually a predicted movement, no, you have to just be so good at every skill. I think I said this last time about being so good at everything that it doesn't matter what happens in front of you.
It's why the defense gets tired. People ask, well, Wait a minute. Why are you worried about the defense getting tired? The opposing offense is on the field at the same time. Yeah, but they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know the play. They know the snap count.
They also know what plays they can take off. You know, if you're the wideout on the opposite side of the field of an off tackle run, you kind of half-ass a route just to keep your defender handled long enough.
Sell it enough that he sticks with you, but not sell
you
it.
give
like,
it about
like
3
if you
good
were getting the
steps.
ball.
Yeah. You accelerate off the line so that the safety might look your direction. Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, reactionary versus, I wonder, you know, now that I think about it, we talk about psychological attributes and who's what. I wonder if there's a difference if we were to just sit down all football players and who plays offense and who plays defense and their mentality, because one would be so much more structured and patterned and the other would be so much more reactionary and basically risk averse. Or not risk averse, where you see patterns. We would see the people who see patterns on defense versus the people who make patterns on offense. Conservatives versus liberals, my buddy.
Surely someone's done that. Surely
I don't
someone's
think
done that
I've never
research.
seen it. I'm gonna dive into the literature.
Look around a little
Hold
bit
on,
for
let
that,
me-
because that would
let
be
me-
interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Well, I need to make some food for the little people. Theoretically, I need to eat too.
All right. Well,
we'll,
yeah, that got dark for a little bit, but then it got better.
Yeah, and everybody go watch the rest of that Masterkin Enter the Dojo video, because you need to see how he utilizes that fan, because it's very useful and important to your personal self-defense. Always
I'm
restrike
gonna
the
watch
grind.
it right after we get off. By the way,
Monkey picks the peach.
Nice.
Yes, always remember to pick the peach.
Profile, offense,
And we will
defense.
make sure we get a video in before I have to leave, and then it'll be about a week before we get another one out. But we will make sure
we're gonna finish Lord of Chaos.
Lord of Chaos, and I'm gonna take Crown of Swords with me so I can make sure I have it ready in my brain for when we come back, especially since you said you don't remember it as well.
Yeah, and I'm queuing up some sexy time stuff because I've really got some. I'm listening to on my Modern Wisdom, there was a Dr. David Lay, and he was really breaking down data behind misconceptions in sexual psychology, like things you would like. I kind of touched on some before our episode on infidelity. What would you have put the percentage of females that are unfaithful in America? You know the number, but what would you have put it?
I don't remember I don't remember the number. I remember you talking about it, but I don't remember what the number was. And I would say 30%.
Well, that was the number, but you were surprised by that. So
okay,
I think you're influenced
that was
by
noodling around in my subconscious somewhere, because I didn't remember.
Well, that was the number if we accept the self-reporting, which in self-reporting studies, in something embarrassing, put that on the low end, right? Yeah. So, because I think at the time you said it was probably somewhere around 10%.
Okay, I can see that.
So going through the numbers on that, what would you say the percentage of men who have cuck fantasies are, of being the cuck?
Oh,
you're gonna go higher than your original thought, because I brought this up, but go with your original thought.
About a quarter, I would say, at most a quarter.
55%.
Wow.
55%.
Part of my brain was thinking, is he going to say half? Because that is personally impossible to imagine.
And good theories on it, because it's the theory he brought up, which he wasn't completely sold on, but the one I immediately thought of, he didn't mention either. So, but his theory, it was an eroticizing of fear. Basically, I'm afraid of my wife cheating, so I kind of self-coped by eroticizing it.
Kind of like how we make jokes about terrible things.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's probably got some merit. But I think it's actually, we talk about stress, and two of the major contributors are predictability and control.
Mm,
I think it's adding control to a fear. I think she's going to cheat on me, but if I do this thing, I at least have control over who she cheats with.
mm.
So that's kind of my theory on it. But basically, this conversation, it really kind of throws a lot of data in the opposition of a lot of thoughts we have about human sexuality. But on the flip side, I'm listening to, and I'm halfway through it, Louise Perry talking to Peterson, and it's a very much more conservative view on the direction of sexuality and how it's damaging. And so I'm kind of getting two sides of the coin here, and really digging into literature on where the connections may be, or where how one can be true and the other can be true, or which one is probably more likely. So it's really got me in some really interesting literature, and I kind of want
Well,
to.
that'll be interesting because I was going to bring up Peterson because I'd mentioned this before of when he and Dave Rubin were doing
Well,
that tour.
Peterson is so right on so many things, and then sometimes he's so rigid that it throws
Mhm.
me off. And they're doing
Yes,
a.
that'll be interesting.
He's got, you know, they have their own like WEF counterpart going now.
Yeah,
But
I sent you that link when he was talking to Rogan. I assume
yeah,
you listened to
I
the whole
listened to the whole
show.
Rogan, yeah.
Okay.
Which again, 99% of the conversation, I'm like, yeah, cool, awesome. But he wants to force monogamy with this thing, and I'm just like,
I got a clip for that.
we're
Yeah, it's
looking at the
interesting.
literature here, and you know, the infidelity rates, but now add to that the ethical non-monogamy, where everybody's in on it, is about 18% of the population. That doesn't count in the cheaters. So add that 30% to the 18%, and you're close to 50%.
Hmm.
So maybe we have to rethink this, but then also look at society as a whole, because we've gone over why polygamy can end up really, really, really,
Disastrous.
really
Yeah.
disastrous. So is there a workaround? Should we stick with one? But then you have to have authoritarianism to stick with one. So it's a big conversation to be had, which I would love for this thing to get together and have the conversation. I would hate for a policy to come out of it.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I'm listening to the other side of the story. I'm putting them together. I've got a million tabs on my in the psychological literature, but again, that's all tainted these days. But
Taint.
taint. So I think that can be a really fun, cool conversation.
All right. Well,
But
we'll dive into that when I get back. But tomorrow is Lord of Chaos, which actually is kind of fitting with the chaos that you were just talking about. So we'll see y'all
well, yeah,
then.
especially since men's involved, you know.
All right.
All right.